Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is currently like 11 in the morning. I just got done eating Wingstop. Still have my drink, so I'm just sipping on this. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about every single series I am in the middle of. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because this year I did say that I wanted to stay on top of my series. And so far, I've been doing a great job. I'm usually trying to take down like 2 books a month, a part of series I'm currently reading. And I think that's it. We will go from there. 19 series. There's so many books that I want to read. I wish I could read in my sleep. That's what I wish I could do. I sleep for like 8 hours. I could be reading. I'm keeping track of all the series I'm in the middle of by using my reading journal, and I created a page just for like dark romance, dark fantasy, mystery, anything that's like on the darker side. I created one separate page, and anything that's going to continue will go on this page. And this is just for contemporary romance, anything on the lighter side. I think the colors are going to be very vibrant over here, which will be very cute by the end of it. But the reason why I wanted them to be separated was because I right now am not focusing too much on contemporary romance, just because I've figured out what types of genres I do really enjoy and have been gravitating to the past few months. But I still wanted to include them because I don't want to forget about them. I do want to continue them. First book I have is Powerless. As of right now, there are 3 out. I believe the 4th one releases this year. Or I call them 4, but I know the novella, some people don't consider that. I have not read Reckless yet. I do like this. It reminded me a lot of the Hunger Games. Like, I feel like it was a very simplified fantasy. If you're someone who wants to get into fantasy, absolutely, I do think that this is something that's very easy to understand. I feel like these characters haven't stood out to me like other characters. I feel like this series is really popular because it's so easy to understand. I love when I used to annotate my books, honestly. I feel like annotating is so time consuming, but like I really do love when I would annotate them. I don't really think I have anything bad to say about it. Reckless is the only one that I need to finish before the new one comes out. So I think we're doing pretty good so far in keeping track of how many books are out and what I'm actually reading. But I did enjoy the first one. It wasn't bad at all. This was the second dark fantasy that I've ever read. The first one was One Dark Window. I absolutely love that duology. It was my all-time favorite. But then I did read this pretty soon after, and I really did enjoy it. I love the vampires, I love the world, I love how dark it is. I like how our main character is a very strong female lead. This is a series that I'm obsessed with. I think it's close to One Dark Window, and I'm really excited to continue. This was one of the first books I ever annotated, and I really did have a fun time. The third series is Lightlark. I think that this was a very enjoyable story. I rated this a 3.5, but it wasn't anything super crazy to me. I loved the world, the fan art, how magical and whimsical it feels, but I definitely feel like this isn't like a dark fantasy, something that's super high stakes. Like, it is high stakes. Obviously people's lives are in danger and things like that, but I just think it was super enjoyable. Like, the characters are likable, but I feel like you don't hate anyone yet, at least from what I've read in this first book. The second one, Nightbane, I'm actually reading this month, and then Skyshade I'm probably going to read the next month after, just so I can read everything that's come out so far. The plot point of this book is every 100 years this island shows up and people from different realms have to fight to uplift their curse that they have, and our main character, her curse is actually to not fall in love, because the minute you fall in love with someone, they can use your powers to kill you, basically. You have so many different realms and their different powers and their different curses and everything, but I definitely do think that if you're someone who's getting into fantasy, definitely read this. It was amazing. I cannot get enough of this world. It is a 5-star series for me. I'm actually done with Belladonna, Foxglove. I'm reading Wisteria this month, and I was just browsing on Barnes & Noble's website, and I had seen that there was a novella in this world. I don't know when it's going to come out. I think it's 2025. I feel like this author does such an amazing job writing about the Regency era. Everyone is so captivating and different, and I think that's very interesting because in this world, you would think it would just be boring because it's Regency, but it's not. There's death, there's fate, they're actually like not objects, they're people, but like, I hope the third book is a 5-star, 6-star, whatever. I just really want it to be good so that I can say that this is a top tier series for me. I really do enjoy it. I think it's amazing, and I'm gonna be really sad when it officially comes to like an end. I did really enjoy this. I rated this one a 5-star. Iron Flame behind me, I rated a 4. It wasn't horrible. I do think that it was longer than it needed to be. I also think that Xaden and Violet were fighting a lot and going back and forth over the same things, and that kind of messed it up for me. but it wasn't horrible. I do think that it still built up the story to where it needed to be to set up book 3, and I'm actually going to be reading book 3 this month as well, so then that will be done for this series for what's out so far. I'm also scared to see how that ends because I know Rebecca Yarros likes to leave us on cliffhangers. This is a book, I think I had first read this at the very beginning of my channel. I think I rated this book a 5, if not it was definitely a 4. I did really enjoy this. I think I read this during October time. The world reminded me a lot, and I mean a lot, of the Peaky Blinders. I really did enjoy it. It was such a fast-paced book. I think I read this in like 2 days. When I put this book into Goodreads, I believe it said book 1, but then also at the end of this book there was a cliffhanger, so I'm like, I think there's gonna be a book 2. It's basically a tea shop, a tea cafe, and during the day they serve people tea and at night they serve people blood. But not people, they're vampires. So this is very interesting. I got attached to our main character Arthi so much, and then her brother Jin, he was also a very funny character. He was hilarious in this book. I really could like actually envision him talking, and it was really fun, and I do hope that there is a second book because I would love to continue. Next I have The Games Gods Play, and I rated this a 3. It wasn't my favorite. I feel like Greek mythology is very, I wouldn't say simplistic, but because I've heard so much about it growing up and in school and all over the media, and I do think that the world is beautiful and the characters, I feel like this book I didn't really connect to the characters. I wasn't really rooting for our main character's relationship with Hades, and that's not horrible. I just think, would I read the second one when it comes out? Yes, because I would like to see how the story progresses, but it wasn't my absolute favorite. If you are someone who does love Greek mythology, absolutely do give this a read. I do think that this plot point was interesting. The beginning of this reminded me a lot of Divergent and like having to work together with teams and like do certain like little missions, but it wasn't super interesting to me after that. Like once she got called into the trials, it was kind of like, oh. I really do wish that I enjoyed this more because this was something that I was seeing on social media everywhere, and then I believe Emmy read it and she did enjoy it. And it was really sad for me to be like, damn, like it was cool to me, but maybe I'm just someone who doesn't connect to Greek mythology that much, and so that's why it wasn't super wow and amazing to me. This was one of the first books, dark romance books, that I've ever read. I actually read this way before I had a YouTube channel. This was probably 2 years prior. I did enjoy this book. I read it on my Kindle, and then recently I did buy the physical copy because I did enjoy it. This one's Haunting Adeline, the second one is Hunting Adeline, and then there's 2 novellas, a before and an after. I did just buy on Amazon the 2 novellas because I did see them in the store, and I was like, I don't want to buy them right now. But then there was other books that I had bought with my Amazon order, and I was like, you know what, let me just add them because I do know that I want to read them pretty soon, because I feel like the first book was enjoyable. There's obviously some events in it that happen and you're just like, what is going on? I did like it, so I'm gonna read the second one. This book I read pretty recently. I think it was during Christmas time. It was December, early December. I did enjoy this. I think I rated this a 4. I think after reading it and sitting on it for a while, I actually do think about this world quite often. The second half of this book, the world and the realm that you're in, it was so fun. Like, I have not read anything like that, but I think because the beginning of the book, again, another Hunger Games situation, but right after that it takes on a whole new direction and plot point. It was so interesting and intriguing to me, but I think because it was such a big book and I have not read a fantasy series like this big, and I was literally reading it for 2 days straight because I had to go to Arizona for a family emergency, so I was doing nothing. Like, it wasn't even, I was working 8 hours and after work I would read. Like, I read this for straight 2 days. It was a long book, but it was so enjoyable that after I was kind of like, I'm glad I read it, but like, damn, it was a lot. And so I think that's why I rated it a 4, was because I was just taken back by the amount of information that we had received. But I am really excited for the second one. It was announced, and I believe it's called Brimstone. I do think that book 2 hopefully is going to be a 5-star. That's my prediction for it. This is a series that I've said I wanted to read for so long. This was on so many TBRs of mine. It's very captivating. Like, it's very fast-paced and things are always happening, and if the rest of her books are like this, I will probably rate them 5 stars. Like, I absolutely love this story. I love Pip, our main character. She's so funny and powerful and witty, and I just think she's amazing at doing research. She's also great at uncovering things, especially for being a high schooler. I do know that probably in the next book she'll be in college and stuff like that, but I'm just excited to see like her growth as a character as well. I do think that this is going to be a very fun series to continue. I probably won't pick up the second one until maybe like 2 or 3 months because I'm definitely just on a fantasy dark romance kick. This book literally took me 3 to 4 weeks to finish. This was another hefty book, but I feel like everything that happened in this book made sense as to why it was so big. Like, it was an insane world. There's vampires, witches, werewolves, warlocks, like all kinds of creatures, demon things. I rated this a 5-star. I know I want to read the second book and the third one, but I think it's, again, gonna take me a minute. This man is so sweet and protective of our main character, and it's a slow burn romantasy, and I really, really did enjoy it. I feel like if I would have read this, I probably would have read it in a bingeable setting because everything would have hit me so much like at once, and I would have been like, whoa, this is insane. But I read it over a very long period because I was kind of in a reading slump, not because of the book. The situation is basically a bounty hunter has a target, and it's this girl, and he realizes he wants to help her instead of giving her to the people that are in charge of the bounties they give him, and he has to hide her. And there's a mystery going on with her, and you're trying to figure that out, and their love story takes off. It's a really, really beautiful book. I feel like the characters you get so connected to, the 7 devils Darren is in charge of. This is another book that I read, I believe, during October time or September. I can't really remember when. I think it was October. I love this. This was exactly what I was looking for at the time. It's a gothic fantasy. If you're someone who likes like house horror games type of situation, it was this. There was ghosts floating around. It was basically like The Greatest Showman, but like spooky, if that makes sense. Like, it was very haunted. There was ghosts and spirits and ghouls. If I could read this again for the first time, I absolutely would. Our main character, Ophelia, is a necromancer, and she inherited that from her mother. Her mother dies, and you're kind of like, wait, what's going on? Like, how did her mom die? You kind of figure that out towards the end of the book, and she takes on her powers, but then her sister goes into this like carnival house to try to win this prize to win money so that they can like pay off their house and stuff, and she goes in after her sister. If anyone's interested in the type of world this is set in place of, our main character is a necromancer. There are witches, there are specters, vampires, shapeshifters, familiars, ghosts, phantoms, poltergeists, ghouls, and aspirations. There's devils, demons. I'm taking a break. But now we're going to get into the contemporary interconnected romance books that I have. Starting out, we have the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Now, I don't know how many of these are out. I know that I own 2 of them. No, I own 3. Do I want to continue these books? Yes, I read them probably like in a day. They were super, super fast. I did enjoy them. They're not anything crazy. I feel like if you're someone who just loves contemporary romance and you kind of do like spicy books, this is going to be up your alley, a small town romance, but I don't think that it was a crazy plot. This was one of the first books that I read on my reading journey. I love this author. There are 2 more in this interconnected series. They're all kind of like the same covers. There's a blue one and then there's a yellow one. I believe that the yellow one is second, but this felt more like Ali Hazelwood's writing. Like, it was something that was easy to understand, a great plot point, but that was like kind of fun and fluffy contemporary romance. I feel like when I think of OG contemporary romance, at least for me, it was when I read The Spanish Love Deception, The Love Hypothesis. I feel like when I read The Fine Print, like all of those books is what this reminds me of, and I do definitely enjoy them. This, I think I rated like a 4 maybe, or like a 3. At the time I wasn't rating contemporary romances very high. Maybe I did rate it a 5, but like my ratings back then, like 2-3 years ago, were crazy. So I don't know exactly. I feel like right now I rate this a 3.5 or a 4. I really, really did enjoy it. It's something that I want to continue. This book, I feel like, was such a big controversy on TikTok because a lot of people liked it and then a lot of people didn't. Was this my favorite? No. I just feel like I didn't connect to the characters, and that's not bad. And this was one of my first hockey romances that I ever read. Well, actually, first and only hockey romance that I've ever read. I do definitely want to get more into sports romances. I feel like I am more excited for book 2 and 3. I feel like people in the book community really did like those 2 more. The first one was just kind of what catapulted this interconnected series into the media. But I feel like people have actually connected to the characters in book 2 and book 3. So I am very excited. I've only read the first one, but this is something that I do want to continue. This was one of the first books that I've ever almost finished reading. I actually was reading this, and then I had seen The Love Hypothesis for the first time, and once I read The Love Hypothesis, I fell in love with that book. I feel like the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes I'm going to enjoy a lot more, just because I think the love triangle in this and it's young adult, I just don't think I really enjoy it because it's not going to be super high stakes. So to say that, I kind of have been thinking about getting rid of the Inheritance game series as a whole and just keeping the naturals. But if I get more of my TBR done this year and I have some extra books that I kind of want to tackle, I'm going to try to give this another chance and see. I'm probably not going to read it from the start, but I will see if I can find my place of where I left off and go from there and see if I can read it. But as of right now, this is something that I'm not going to continue. How many books do I have? I have 4. I've read 75% of the first book out of the 4, so this is something that I do need to think about. This series is definitely something I want to continue. This first book, it did stick with me. I do like the characters, I did like the story. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the other ones. I feel like I'm going to like this a little bit more than Twisted Love in that series, but I have not picked this up since about 2 years, I think, after I read the first one, so we will see. I'm currently 1 book out of 4 done for this series, and I do know that another one comes out this year, and I am really excited. I do need to get caught up. I do think I need to start incorporating my contemporary romances as palette cleansers after I read 1 or 2 fantasy, romantasy, dark romance books, because I do want to get them done, and I want to get caught up. I did enjoy this series, but I need to stay on top of it or else they're gonna get forgotten, and I don't want that to happen. I do want to know what the rest of them are about. I believe I rated this a 3.5 or a 4. If I rated it a 5, again, this was one of the first books that I've ever read at the beginning of my journey, and I can't really remember my ratings for them, but I feel like now this would definitely be like a 3.5, and it's something that I'd want to continue. I have 2 more books left. This is one of them. I did enjoy them. These books are so fast-paced. If you're someone who's like, they sucked, okay. If you read a lot of cowboy romance, I have not read Elsie Silver books yet. I definitely do want to read them in the summertime. But I think for cowboy romance, for some simple palette cleansers, these were enjoyable. I read them back to back, and I think I rated them like a 3.5 or a 4. Like, it was just easy to understand. Nothing too crazy needed to happen. I do have to read the 3rd one that's currently out. I do believe that a 4th one was announced. Maybe it's coming out this year, I'm not too sure. But I am 2 books out of 3 so far that are currently out. But I do feel like for my first introduction to cowboy romance, Lila Sage, I think, did an amazing job for me. It's something that's still new to me, and I do definitely feel like I did enjoy it. So kudos to her, because obviously if I didn't like cowboy romance, I probably would not have bought Elsie Silver's books. The last book that I have, this was, again, up there with The Love Hypothesis, one of the first books I read. I was in a really bad reading slump during that time. This book took me forever. Once I had finished this, I really was like, dude, what took you so long? Well, duh, because I was in a reading slump. I think these books and the covers are stunning. I feel like this is when book covers started to like take off, and this was something that stood out to me because there was nothing else like it to me at the time. A lot of contemporary romances in general just had people on the cover, very cutesy, and this was kind of like, okay, this is different, it's interesting, I want to know what it's about, and I liked it enough that I do want to continue the other 2. This is only the first one I've read. I feel like I rated this probably a 3.5 or a 4. If I rated it a 5 on my Goodreads, that's probably because it was one of the first books that I had read at the time. It's hard for me to talk about contemporary romances in the plot because it's just romance, but it takes place in like a work setting, or it takes place while they're on vacation, or it takes place from someone's friend that you know of. Like, it just is simple to me and it's enjoyable, so it's always hard to talk about the plots, especially because I read this so long ago. I do remember it. It's basically like a Disneyland situation. There's like 3 brothers, and each book is about a different brother, and this brother is kind of the brother that takes on the creative side of creating these parks and new attractions for people, and he kind of doesn't believe in himself, and he had a really hard upbringing. Our main character helps him find the strength in himself to know that he can actually complete this and do this and get, I think it's an inheritance if he actually does complete what he needs to do, and he falls in love with her because of it, and she's such a distinct individual and she separates herself from everyone, and she's so caring and kind. And Lauren Asher does have another series. It's called Love Redesigned. Well, everyone, that was pretty much it for today's video. I feel like my videos have been pretty boring lately. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like I've been out of it. Like, I'm back on track with filming for the most part, but like I feel like I've been out of it. And I do apologize. I'm very sorry. I don't know what's going on with me ever in my life. I'm done talking about all the 19 book series I am in the middle of. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.